Hey guys, this is BBZ with BBZ Staking, and today we've got something really cool. Me and Fintan were able to spend some time together trying to prepare him for the 2019 W Coupe series, and we were able to identify through database analysis that the spots we should focus on were big blind play specifically, and more specifically big blind play versus wide rangers. So big blind versus small blind, big blind versus button. That ends up being the theme of what we went through, and we're going to give you guys a quick introduction to that right now. So check it out. Thank you for that one.
This is final two tables. This is final two tables of the big one and 9 yesterday, just for reference.
Cool. Yeah, check fold flop seems good. Oh. You can bet sometimes, but I would mostly advocate just continuing to check fold.
Yeah. I would have always bet this like a year ago. I would have just maybe 2 years ago. Anytime I just would have went for it, but obviously we're just betting way too much if we bet the whole time.
Yeah, correct. That's fine. That's still okay. I mean, it's a bigger open, so it's something to think about, but it's okay. Yeah, go for it. Call's good, particularly at this stack depth. Call's good.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not perfect, but it's getting close to perfect. And so just crude math, right? I'm not a rocket scientist. So just crude math. You have 9 outs roughly. I mean, like if he's value betting, he could be bluffing, right? So if he's bluffing, then you have 15 outs. So 15 outs, roughly speaking, is worth something between like 28 and 32% equity. And 9 outs is worth something between like 16 and 20% equity. And so even if you're drawing straight to 9, you're getting really fucking close to the right price, and you always have implied odds when you make a flush. Like it's non-zero implied odds.
Yeah, for sure.
So like given the price you're getting, it's going to be difficult to fold this hand. I would say that like this hand is probably in like somewhat indifferent. So like you're probably going to see like some amount of mixing to fold. So it's not a bad fold, but because this hand is so close, it's obviously worth right around 0. And when people get hands that are worth right around 0, like they always want to like basically play them, and you don't have to. So like it's if it's right around 0, it's probably okay to fold sometimes. But I would say that it's probably mostly a play, and like on occasion it's a fold. So it's like a 70% play, 30% fold, something like that. Okay. That's how I would think about it. So I'd isolate this hand pre-flop, like not every single time, but like not infrequently either. So when you get really short like this. One of the ideas that's important to me is like equity leakage. I just really don't want to be raising hands that are like really good and then folding to a shove. And this hand will certainly qualify as not being very good. So we don't have that problem. And we still want to have a non-all-in isolation. If you have a hand like King 10 suited, you don't want to jam that. You don't want to check. If you have a hand like King Jack suited, King Queen suited, same thing. Queen Jack suited, same idea. Jack 10 suited, still the same thing. You isolate all of these hands, non-all-in, he jams, you call. And like if you have ace 6 offsuit or something, that hand shoves. If you have pocket 4s, that hand shoves. If you have jacks, that hand isolation calls.
What size would you go to stack depth?
You don't have to go very large. You could go like 265, 285, something right around there. But this hand will be like for me like a relatively high frequency play for that. The having the 3 and the deuce at this stack depth unblock the bottom of his range reasonably well. So like because he's so short, he's going to know that he can't just limp his whole range. Like even the most aggressive guys know that they can't limp at this range with everything, because you're going to have you're going to lean on them. So they end up with like maybe a 5% fold if they're really aggressive, and then they end up with a higher fold than that if they're less aggressive. And that means that like if someone's folding 5%, they're going to fold a lot of the combos that have a deuce or a 3 in them before the flop, so that when they limp, the weakest hand they're likely to show up with is a hand with like a 4 in it or a 5 in it. And so like having 3 deuce specifically is like a hand that I don't mind isolating a lot pre-flop.
Okay.
This is the type of flop I would probably bet a lot when check too. I mean, like obviously I can just give up. I think giving up is fine. I think maybe you should bluff with a club, but occasionally I'll just bluff with nothing. And so like I could have checked, but I will bluff with nothing here fairly often as well. Given that it's like a reasonably good flop for you, you're going to isolate a lot of the Broadway stuff pre-flop. I'm going to isolate a lot of the total shit stuff pre-flop. I mentioned potentially isolating 3-2 offsuit. And so when I check, my range ends up being somewhat more dense, like these middling 9-7-6 type shit. And so I take advantage of that by betting when check too fairly often.
Okay. I wouldn't fold. I don't know.
It's not a horrible fold. Yeah, it's not a horrible fold. That's fine.
Okay, but obviously I tell the truth when I think I've like made a misclick. I'm not saying this is a misclick, but I would have called this if I had like one table. So I guess that's maybe a mistake.
It's just a mix. This hand's worth like close to, I think worth somewhat close to zero. When he bets, 2/3, if he bets a third, yeah, you have to call. When he bets, this sizing and the board is this dynamic. So by dynamic, I mean there are just so many cards that will counterfeit your hand. So a 5, a 10, an 8, a club. Even if another overcard that's really really meaningfully interactive with his range. So like, I don't know how you feel about calling on a jack, but it doesn't feel great to me.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So in this scenario, you can fold this pair here.
Okay.
Against the sizing. It's fine. That's close.
Pre-flop.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's just close-ish as the sizings get larger. So I mean, like, I would on occasion. Oh no, you're too short for that. Okay. So like, if we were deeper, what I was gonna say was that like, I thought you might have had a few more chips. If you had a few more chips, this is the type of scenario where I might go nuts sometimes. And the reason I might go nuts sometimes is because you should just go nuts with a flush. Because when the ace of diamonds and king of diamonds are stripped out of his range, he doesn't really have a flush. It's really hard. Yeah, so most of the hands he opens pre-flop are ace high hands, and then like the second most common hands for him to open pre-flop that are suited are going to be king high hands. And so when both the ace and king of diamonds are on the flop, it's just much more challenging for him to have a flush. Like, alarm bells start to go off when he checks, but it really matters a lot that it's hard for him to have a flush. You can only show up with like queen jack of diamonds or queen 10 of diamonds or something. And so for deeper, I'll leverage some of that flush asymmetry with some like relatively gangster bluffs, particularly when I know other people don't bluff. So like other people, yeah, it's true it's an ace king X flop. Yeah, it's true that's not a very good flop. But it's also true that most people won't go gangbusters on those types of flops. And so if you come out here on the turn and you want to half X pot it, and then you want to half X pot the river, or you want to half X pot the turn and then 3X pot the river or something like that, like your range is going to be obviously flushes, right? Like on the value side. And so he has to determine whether or not you're bluffing enough, and the population just isn't. So it's a spot that I'll take advantage of sometimes.
Okay, sweet.
I'm probably not going to fold. Yeah, I like that. That's fine. No, did you fold? Did I fold? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
I just missed that. Yeah. We're good. We're good. I trust you. That's okay. We're good. I would occasionally bet the flop, but not often.
Okay. The only thing, obviously you can't notice, but this is a PKO, so I don't really have an ace very often. I would say.
We don't. We don't. We just don't. If it's a PKO, we just have threes. Yeah, that's you're gonna have a 0% check with your 3X. Like, it's just what you want to do is you want to, like, yes, it's true that it's an ace high flop. Like, yes, it's true that when he checks, he ends up with more medium strength hands. Like, all those things are true. It's also still true though that if it's a PKO in particular, that you would have basically 100% of the deck. You wouldn't really want to fold much of anything. Like, that wouldn't be true against his sizing if it wasn't a PKO. But if it's a PKO, not folding hands is reasonable. And so you have 3X. And it's true that 3X doesn't want to check at all, really. Your 3X checking component is probably less than 15%. So like, if you actually have trips, you're going to 85% bet and like 15% check or something. So it's also true that you're almost 1.5 times as likely to have trips as you are to have like a flush draw, for example. So think about that just visually, something people don't really realize. Yeah. If you have a flush draw, like how many combos of flush draw there on the flop? There's 55, okay? And how many combos of trips are there? Well, before you adjust for the trips combos that you would take out for like one reason or another, there are 96. And so like, maybe it's 85, maybe it's 80, something like that in most scenarios. But you have a much higher total number of combos of trips than you would of flush draws on the flop. And as a result of that, it's important to make sure that you kind of, bet enough in these when the board has like trips and you've got that adequate coverage of it. It's important to make sure you're aggressive enough, because it's easy to be just way too tight. Okay. So, checking's fine. I don't have a problem with it. You have fucking E2 suited. You got nothing. Giving up's okay. But
would you ever bluff?
But you could have bluffed. No, this, like the king river in particular. Like when someone checks these type of, like, you might have sevens exactly, but I think sevens will still call. And then like he has a pair of sixes, so that's pretty comparable to sevens. But when he checks flop and turn, it tends to be like his range gets much more dense king X. So I'm kind of over it.
All right, so I hope that was, really enjoyable, that brief introduction to Fintan's game and the work that he and I did together to help him prep for this 2019 W Coup. To check out more, please visit us at bbzstaking.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and please don't forget to subscribe below. So thanks very much. I really appreciate it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.